Okay, folks, we are live. Chuck Holton here, coming to you from Armenia. And I am watching the Shofar app here on my screen. You can see that it is on between Israel and Lebanon right now. There are rockets flying both directions. The IAF has been mercilessly pounding the Lebanese southern part of Lebanon over the last day. And they've got Hezbollah in complete disarray. Hezbollah is firing rockets back as fast as they can, and about as fast as they can fire them, the IAF manages to take them out. Now, as you probably know, I cannot show you the videos that are coming out that show the results of these strikes because YouTube will demonetize the video almost immediately. And so rather than show them to you on YouTube, I've been putting them up over on chuckholton.com. You can go to chuckholton.com. You can see videos right now of the results of what the IAF is doing inside Lebanon. Again, I'm going to have to be careful about my language, but I'm just leaving this video up because this is showing real-time strikes that are happening on Israel as these tubular complaints, these fireworks being fired from Hezbollah are coming in. There have been hundreds of rockets that have flown out of southern Lebanon today toward Israel. So far, no word on damage or at least not deaths or injuries. And I'm going to turn this down just a little bit. Again, that's the kind of thing we don't want to put out just yet, even if we did know what they were. But so I'm just going to leave this Shofar app up right now because you can see what's happening down there. A lot of these munitions are coming from southern Lebanon and even central Lebanon and flying further south than they have been for some time. So they are threatening areas south of Haifa. They're threatening the Galilee, all the way to the northern edge of the Sea of Galilee there. And there is a lot happening. So again, you can go to chuckholton.com. You can see the videos of the results of some of these strikes. I'm only showing videos that are showing results inside Lebanon because, again, just for operational security reasons, we want to be careful about showing immediate results, immediate results of what is happening inside Israel. But from what we're hearing so far, the Iron Dome system is doing its job, and many of these munitions are not falling in populated areas. This is, at least according to reports, the first time that many of these types of munitions have been fired out of Lebanon. We've been looking at a couple of these. Let's see here. I want to make sure I get the nomenclature correct. Fadi 1 and Fadi 2 missiles, which are larger than what we've seen fired out of Lebanon to date. The Fadi 2 missile has a warhead of 375 pounds. 375-pound warhead is enough to take down an entire apartment building. That will leave a pretty serious crater. The good or bad thing, depending on how, where it hits, is that these things are not guided missiles. They don't have a GPS system. I don't even think they have an inertial system. I think they're just point, fire, and forget. So they just sort of aim them at Israel in general. From what I can tell, what they call it, circular error probable, CEP, which is the range that they might strike within, is something up to 1 kilometer from where they're aimed at. And so the thing is, if they're firing these at heavily populated areas, which apparently they are, all they have to do is get close. I mean, when you got a warhead that's 375 pounds, close is good enough. to cause a lot of damage and hurt a lot of people. But the Iron Dome system, I think, can prioritize these larger munitions and take them out. And so these things aren't, it's not that they are completely harmless if the Iron Dome system takes them out. I want you to understand how the Iron Dome works. It's like a shotgun round that gets fired up into the sky, and as it approaches, so it's directable. It has rockets on it that can turn the munition, and it will track onto this incoming missile when it's in its terminal phase, which means it's on its way back down, in order to strike. So the Hezbollah missile is coming down, it's in its terminal phase, and the Iron Dome system goes up to meet it. And when it gets close, it fires these projectiles that cause it to detonate in the sky, or at least maybe not detonate, but keep it from detonating at all. And so then the only danger that exists at that point is from falling shrapnel, which is, there are some large pieces. These Fadi 1 and 2 missiles are about 20 feet long and about a foot in diameter. And like I said, just the warhead on it is 375 pounds. The entire device is quite a bit more than that, something over 600 pounds. And so it certainly could ruin your weekend if it landed on your head, if you're walking down the street, or if it landed on your car, that would be a bad day. We've seen pictures of these things, the shrapnel from them going through people's roofs and things like that. If one of these strikes, however, and the warhead detonates, then you're talking about orders of magnitude greater damage. And that is what the Iron Dome system is meant to avoid. They're meant to keep that from happening. So I want to go down here and click on this, because this will show you just the area of the most recent alerts here. I'm just pulling out. This is all south of Haifa and west of Nazareth. That this has just happened in the last few minutes. Barrage is taking place on this part of northern Israel. So the people in northern Israel have had to stay very close to their shelters. And let me talk a little bit about what's happened inside Lebanon. So over the past day, the IDF, Benjamin Netanyahu, Daniel Hagari, all of the normal players here have been making very clear that it's time for this to come to an end in Lebanon, and that they are going to do what's necessary to end it. Hezbollah started it. The IDF is going to end it. And if you back up a few days to what we've been calling Operation Grim Beeper, where the pagers went off and wounded something like 3,000 to 4,000 Hezbollah-affiliated people. We'll call them militants or extremists. Let's see, who's that? Oh, thank you, Omega Sparrow. Appreciate that. So, let's see here. I'm trying to do two things at once. We'll go back over here to the live, just in case we can see other alerts coming in while we're speaking. So they have been saying, look, we're gonna end this. I want to read for you some of what Benjamin Netanyahu had to say, if I can find it real quick. He said, for those who have not yet understood, I want to clarify Israel's policy. We do not wait for a threat. We attack it. Everywhere, in every arena, at any time, we eliminate senior officials, eliminate tangos. I'm going to call them tangos from now on instead of terrorists. Eliminate missiles, and it's only the beginning. Whoever tries to hurt us, we hurt him even more. I promised that we would change the security balance, the balance of power in the north. This is exactly what we are doing. We destroy thousands of missiles and rockets aimed at Israeli cities and Israeli citizens. We are facing complex days. I ask you, citizens of Israel, for two things. First, to obey the directives of the Home Front Command. It saves lives. And secondly, to stand together with determination, responsibility, and of course, patience. So in addition to that, they have been contacting people inside Lebanon and telling them, listen, if you are in a building that has some sort of munitions stored in it, you had better get out. It's time to get out of that building right now, because we're going to start taking those buildings out. And the videos that I'm posting up at chuckholton.com are showing exactly that. They are finding, and they have been keeping track of where these large munitions have been stored, where they're being hidden across Lebanon, and they are going in right now and they are taking them out one after the other after the other. They're hitting them very, very hard. When you look at the videos, I'm watching videos like this one here, and again, I'm not going to show the whole thing, but you can see it on chuckholton.com. When you watch these videos, what you can see are something called secondary explosions. And secondary explosions mean that they hit what they were aiming at. It means that, yes, there was something in that building that shouldn't have been there. Some sort of munition was being stored in that building, because when the Israeli Air Force dropped ammunition on top of that building, it didn't just go boom, it went boom, boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, and a whole lot more went off. That means that they know what they're shooting at, and they're shooting at the right things. And they are warning people to get out of those buildings to minimize civilian casualties. Now, right now, the health ministry inside Lebanon is reporting something like 1,000 people injured and about 400 that have been eliminated at this point. Again, they are going to do the same thing that they've done in Gaza. They're going to play up the number of civilians. They're going to pretend that it's basically all women and children, and they're never going to be forthright or forthcoming about the number of militants that are eliminated in these operations. So you can kind of take what they say with a grain of salt, but they have been more accurate, at least so far, than Gaza has been. I see a question going by real quick. My voice is pretty shot here. After the discussion of Lebanon, I have a question. I've just seen this last night. Need to ask you, what about Russian situation going on with them threatening and you didn't finish your sentence. So I don't know exactly what to answer. If this is about the Russia-Ukrainian situation, I'll have to do a separate live about that at some point, because I'm right now just talking about what's happening in Lebanon, between Lebanon and Israel, because what we're looking at, folks, is the third Lebanon war. Okay? There's basically no question about this. Now, we are not hearing reports of troops on the ground yet inside Lebanon, as far as Israeli troops. But what we are hearing, and everybody say hi to Connie over there. Hi, Connie. She's 30 seconds behind me, so she'll look over here in a minute. See, there she is. We're not seeing IDF troops going into Lebanon just yet, but what we are seeing is shaping operations, preparing for that to happen. And it's likely, like I've been saying, that we are going to see ground operations begin in the very near future, because again, backing up to Operation Grim Beeper, and then going from there to the second wave of those attacks inside Lebanon. What that did is that made it impossible for Hezbollah leadership to coordinate with each other electronically. They are absolutely terrified right now of anything electronic, and so they're not using them anymore. So they had to get together face to face. So then they did that. They got together face to face in the Dahia neighborhood of Lebanon, of Beirut, southern Beirut. And then the IDF struck the place where they were meeting and took out about 16 senior commanders, including the number 2 guy in Hezbollah at this point. And that number 2 guy was somebody that the United States has been after for like 37 years because he was instrumental in the attack on the Marine barracks back in 1986. So that was a long time coming, but that guy finally got his comeuppance at the hands of the Israeli Air Force, and the United States ought to send the Israeli Air Force a check for $7 million because that's the amount of money that we had as a reward on his head for bringing him to justice. And the IAF finally did that after this many years. The United States was unable to do it, or unwilling maybe, in all that time, but the IAF finally took him out. And not only took him out, but took out a lot of senior commanders. And so Hezbollah is in complete disarray now. I have been saying that the IDF, it's time, now that they have their enemy on the back foot. He's reeling. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to communicate. He's in shock. Now is the time to go hard against their enemy and actually take them out. I've been wondering, why haven't they immediately gone into Lebanon with ground troops after Operation Grim Reaper? It just seems like it would make sense that that was what they should do. And there was some talk that the IDF was unprepared, that they weren't ready to actually institute Operation Grim Reaper, but they were afraid that they were being found out, that those devices were going to be compromised, and then they would get thrown away and they wouldn't be able to be effective. They wouldn't be able to activate them effectively. But now there's a exclusive report from the Jerusalem Post that says that is not the case, that this was 15 years in the making and that they activated them exactly when they wanted to activate them, which means that they must have a bigger plan that they're putting in place to continue to keep their enemy on the back foot. So maybe that's what we're seeing now. We are seeing this very large operation with just constant sorties, hundreds and hundreds of warplanes from Israel going into Lebanon and taking out hundreds of rocket launchers, thousands of rockets. And like I've been saying all along, they don't have, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio of launchers to missiles. It's not. And so if they can take out the launchers, they can render a lot of those missiles basically worthless. And so now this, here's some live. Let's go back to the map here. We've got a few lives coming up. So this is another barrage coming in as we speak. Look at that right there. Boom. This is all coming in. Now let's pull out just a little bit. Right around Haifa. It looks like this is the area that they've been targeting. And here comes some more. It looks like they've really been targeting this area a lot. They may be aiming at Haifa, but like I said, these things are not guided munitions. A lot of these are not. They're cruise missiles, but they're not guided very, very effectively. And so it's likely that they're missing the targets, or maybe they're just focusing on one area, trying to overcome the defenses, make them run out of Iron Dome munitions in order to, because look, if the Iron Dome runs dry in that area, then everybody in that area is at the mercy of Hezbollah. And if they, let's say that they manage with this volley to run Israel out of Iron Dome defenses in that area, then they're going to be in trouble. if they continue to send munitions into that area. So we're just watching this in real time here take place while we're speaking. Okay, we got 2,800 people online and only 750 likes. So please go hit the like button real quick if you like this kind of up-to-the-minute reporting and information and commentary. We have been working very hard to give this information to you in multiple formats. So if you're the kind of person who says, I don't have time to sit through an hour live, hey, I get it. I'm not that kind of person either. So what we're doing is we're putting out a shorter 2-ish minute report, and then every day. And then we're also taking this live once it's finished and condensing it to about 15 minutes and putting it out that way so that you can get just the most important parts of the report without all of my commentary. So we want to give it to you in whatever way works best for you. And I like the lives because I can interact with you. I can answer your questions. We can, engage more, and you can get to know me. I can get to know you a little bit better. And I know a lot of people like those, but there are some people who just don't have time for that. And I get it. So that's why we're putting out more types of information for you. So again, please hit the like button. Holy toads, thank you very much for that. I appreciate the donations. Again, you can go to chuckholton.com and you can look at videos of the results of the sorties that are being flown into Lebanon right now. We put up a whole bunch of videos, and you can learn a lot from watching those videos. You can learn a lot about what Hezbollah is doing in southern Lebanon. So let me give you an example. Israel put out a video that shows a house. It's like a multi-story house, 2 or 3 stories, that's out kind of away from other houses. And it just looks like a country home, a nice, good-sized country home, kind of like the one that I'm standing in that's got multiple levels with some porches on it and things like that. Excuse me. And as you're watching from the drone, what you see is a door open and a truck drive out with a giant munition on the back of it. And that munition goes wah and starts to elevate, and then the drone hits it with a JDAM or something like that and absolutely smokes the whole house. So apparently Hezbollah has been paying people to allow them to store these munitions inside their house. So paying them rent to build their house in such a way that it hides a giant 20-foot missile. That's the kind of thing that Israel is going to be dealing with up here because, Hezbollah is doing exactly what Hamas has done, and that is take advantage of the morality of the IDF, take advantage of the good grace of the Israeli people and the desire not to harm civilians. But in this case, the IDF is putting out that we are going to take out these buildings that are hiding munitions in them. And so if you are in those buildings, it's time for you to go somewhere else. And the people are taking that to heart. There have been videos coming out from across southern Lebanon of lines of vehicles in places like Tyre and Sidon, just long lines of vehicles leaving southern Lebanon because they are, Connie, ASDF needs to go away, because they are, heeding the advice that's being put out by the IDF. That's a good thing. That's what they ought to do, right? Now, another thing that they announced is that this meeting that was taking place where they smoked 16 Hezbollah commanders a couple days ago, actually what they were meeting about was how to invade Israel in another October 7th style attack. So they were planning an October 7th style attack from Lebanon across the border into Israel. And obviously that would be horrific. And so it's a great thing that the IDF was able to find them, fix them, and finish them in bold fashion, as they were meeting together in the basement of a building. Thank you, William. I appreciate that. We appreciate the donations. Question, if e.g. 1 million people download the shofar, will that slow is released from getting the alarms even for 1 second? I don't think so. Fred, that's a good question, but I don't think that's going to affect their ability to get this out. I'm not sure how they fund that. Wouldn't surprise me if it's funded by the Israeli government. It would make sense, actually, if it was funded by the Israeli government, because it's a very effective app for the keeping the country safe as these attacks are happening from Lebanon or Gaza or anywhere else. Okay, so let's go on and talk about more breaking news. Amir Tsarfati is saying, rockets all around me, interceptions above me, our building is shaking. He's in Galilee, and this is, again, the largest barrage that has come from Lebanon since the war started on October 8th. Look, it's on. This is it. This is the third Lebanon war starting as we speak, and you are watching it in real time. There's no two ways about that. It is happening. Hold on. So let's talk about the 1982 Lebanon War, which was the first Lebanon War. I want to just give you a little bit of history behind this. Israel invaded Lebanon in 1982 following a series of attacks between the PLO, which is Palestinian Liberation Organization, which was operating at that time in southern Lebanon, and the Israeli military that had caused civilian casualties on both sides of the border. This was the second Israeli invasion of Lebanon following the first conflict, which happened in 1978, which they call the South Lebanon conflict. This one, which happened in 1982, Israel launched its military operation against the PLO using the attempted assassination of an Israeli diplomat in the United Kingdom as the pretext for war. And it went on for the result. Well, Israel, won. This is something that I pointed out at chuckholton.com the other day, is that every one of these attacks on Israel, Israel has been the victor. In the end, Israel wins every single time, going all the way back to their founding and all the way until today. Israel wins every time. Find me a major battle, a major confrontation with their enemies that Israel has not won. You can't. And you would think that at some point the Palestinians would learn. You would think at some point their enemies would learn. But no, they continue to fight. And part of the reason is because the United States and the West fund both sides. So between this incident that happened, that started the second war in 1982, Israel fought with about 78,000 troops, and Syria had 22,000 on their side, 15,000 troops from the PLO. So something like, 37,000 total. So Israel had 78,000. Their enemies had 37,000. The casualties and losses were something like 2,400 eliminated and 6,000 captured on the side of the enemy, Israel's enemy, I'm saying, the PLO in Syria. The Syrian, I'm sorry, just the PLO, let me get that right, just the PLO lost between 1,000 and 2,400 eliminated. Syria, on top of that, had 1,200 eliminated. So you're talking up to 3,600 people, fighters that were eliminated by Israel in that 1982 conflict. On the Israeli side, they lost 654. And so it was very one-sided in terms of casualties. Total casualties, civilian and military, 19,000 and that died, and 30,000 wounded. This obviously was, major operation. It went on for some time. Let's see here. Trying to see here exactly how long it went on. Went until 1985. So June 6, 1982 to June 5th, 1985. Wow. So what we are looking at now, I tell you all that because I want to tell you, I want you to have some context to put this into. Because if the second is Lebanon War, is that the second war? Let's see here. Oh, no, that was 2006 was the second one. So they had 1978, 1982 to 85, and then 2006. And that one went on for just from July to August. So that one was a smaller conflict. I remember that one, actually. But nevertheless, we could be looking at the beginning of a multi-year conflict. Now, let's hope not. Let's hope that it takes more after the 2006 Lebanon War. That they called that the July War, and also the Second Lebanon War. Okay, so it was 34 days long, and it was in Lebanon, northern Israel, Golan Heights. The conflict was between Israel and Hezbollah, and Hezbollah lost about 250 of their fighters. That's their estimates. Israeli estimates are 600 losses on the Hezbollah side. Israel's losses were 121 and 1,200 wounded. So again, show me a conflict that Israel has not prevailed. And, you're not going to find it. They have won every conflict against their enemies. And this one will likely be no different. I know there are some people, I even know some people personally, who believe that Israel will be lucky to survive this. But I think the Bible says differently. Okay? So, hi, Chuck. Please stay safe. Can I ask you, is this now all-out war? No, we are not yet looking at all-out war, because what we are not seeing is we're not seeing troops on the ground, IDF troops going into Lebanon. That is likely to come very shortly. It likely will happen very soon. But so far, we haven't seen that. We've seen them build up. We've seen them adding thousands of troops to the north. They likely have, at this point, I mean, you'd never want to quote numbers to give away numbers to the bad guys, but there are numbers out there in the public domain that are, north of 100,000. So this could be the largest overall invasion of Lebanon by Israel in its history. That we could be looking at if they go in full force. Now, again, this is going to take a lot of time because the Hezbollah has been very well funded. They've been getting hundreds of millions of dollars, even from the United States every year, and indirectly. And they've been putting that money to use, digging very deep, very well camouflaged tunnels. These are not tunnels that are dug in the sand like they are in Gaza. These are tunnels dug through the rock of the mountains of southern Lebanon. So when you're seeing these ginormous explosions happening across areas where they're taking out launchers and things like that, What they're probably not taking out is the stockpile that they still have underground, because you can maybe collapse the entrance to a tunnel, but you're not going to collapse the entire tunnel. And those things are pretty easy to reopen with some heavy machinery. And so if Israel does not go in on the ground, they cannot finish this fight. That's just, there's no two ways about that. You cannot win a war using only aerial munitions. You just can't. And Hezbollah is finding that out too. It seems like if Hezbollah, Hezbollah, they say, had 100,000 to 150,000 total tubular complaints, as we call them, and these munitions that they can fire at Israel when they be at the beginning of this thing, and they've been getting more smuggled in from Iran ever since the beginning. But Carlos is saying there's plenty of other YouTubers using the words that get me demonetized. Well, you don't know that, because I've reached out to a lot of my fellow YouTubers who are doing similar commentary like I am, and they're all having exactly the same problems I am. They just may not mention it as much. So I'm trying to be careful, and it turns out it actually works. If I'm careful about what I say, then the videos don't get demonetized and more people are able to see it, and that's why I'm being circumspect with my language. But the number of these tubular complaints that Hezbollah has, if they were able to fire all of them at, let's say, Haifa, just one city, they could decimate that city pretty well. The problem is most of those are not precision-guided munitions. And so they can shoot them in a cardinal direction, in this case south, but that's about it. I mean, they really cannot be very accurate with those things. And so they say inshallah, and they just throw them at Israel and hope for the best. But what they're finding is that these things turn into very, very expensive fire starters to start brush fires all around the open areas of northern Israel. As it turns out, there's a lot more open area in northern Israel than there is built up area. And that's a good thing for this reason, because now a lot of these munitions are falling in the open areas and they're starting forest fires and brush fires, and that's bad, but they're not creating widespread disaster among the built up areas. The real problem with the built up areas is that people can't occupy them because they would have to live the whole time in a shelter, and they don't want to do that. So what you're seeing now, the ramping up of the pressure by the IDF and the Israelis on Lebanon is to force, they're going to have to force them to give safe zone, to stop doing what they're doing, to continue firing on the northern part of Israel. They're going to have to force them to stop. They've tried everything else, and now it's time to use righteous violence to do that, okay? So somebody just dropped in. How long do you think the Iron Dome will last with these attacks? You can bet that they've been stockpiling munitions up there for the Iron Dome for just such a day as today. And so I would say so far what we're hearing is that they have been prioritizing the larger and more powerful munitions coming from Lebanon toward Israel to take those out. And of course, if they see that it's not going to strike a built-up area, they just let it go. And so you can bet that around this area, let me just go over here and zoom back in on the area where these are falling right here. This is around Haifa, okay? But you see all the green here on this map. These are areas which are not very built up. There's a lot of open space out there. They're national parks. And so there's likely going to be a lot of fires in that area, a lot of forest fires and that sort of thing. But so far, we've not heard much in terms of any deaths or injuries. There are probably a few, but it's been very light. Now in Haifa, they have activated in the hospital there, the underground hospital that they have built for just such an occasion. And they've been moving patients from the wards of the hospital that are above ground into the wards of the hospital that are below ground so that they can keep them safe. And, I think it was Amir that pointed out that Israel spends its money making caves and tunnels in order to keep people safe. Meanwhile, Hezbollah spends its money making caves and tunnels to put people at greater risk. And that's the difference between the two, okay? This is, a pretty striking difference for sure. There have been lots of reports out of Lebanon of text messages and phone calls even in Arabic saying, if you're in these areas, leave now, because and the unspoken part of that message is that the area you're in is about to become an active war zone. And so you'd better get out, okay? Let me see here. Now, what Netanyahu is saying is that this is a preemptory strike. They're calling this a preemptive strike. Now, perhaps he meant for it to be a preemptive strike. Oh, here come a bunch more. There's a bunch more coming in now. Let's go back over to the live look. Let me switch the camera. This is happening live as we speak. These are munitions coming in on northern Israel right now. I'm getting the messages. You see more of them popping up. Again, this is the same area, maybe a little bit further to the south and the east, but they are focusing on that area. Here comes some more. And again, I get them on my watch here. So I can, feel my watch buzzing, just buzz, 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 buzz. And I'm sure any of you who have this Shofar app have been seeing it just blow up today. Your phone has been just going crazy with all of the alerts. Now, I want you to understand this. If you're just starting to watch this, or if you haven't been watching the Shofar app for a long time, each of these red zones is not where something is striking. It's where the Iron Dome system has determined that these areas may be in danger of something striking in the next few minutes, okay? You can see them continuing to update in real time as these munitions are fired out of Lebanon. This is happening in real time, like I said, and the radar system that they have in Israel is watching these launches coming out of Lebanon, and it's calculating the trajectory of the missiles and then deciding what areas might be affected by them if they make it to their target. And then it warns the people in those areas to take cover. Now, in the area that we're seeing there, just south and east of Haifa, those people probably have about 30 to 45 seconds, maybe a little more, depending on where in Lebanon those things are fired from. And you can bet that the IAF is in the air constantly flying sorties, because as these munitions get fired out of Lebanon, the IAF is taking out the launchers immediately, just as quickly as they can target them. And what that also tells us is that Hezbollah does not have any significant capability of anti-aircraft munitions to take down Israeli fighter jets. So the Israelis own the skies, and that's a good thing for Israel. And they are using that air power to take out the launchers. So this is actually kind of I wouldn't call it cathartic. And it certainly isn't a good thing. But if you wanted to find a silver lining to the conflict that we're watching unfold before us right now, before our eyes, what the silver lining is that every one of these alerts is one less munition that Hezbollah has to threaten Israel with. Every one of these alerts is potentially one less rocket launcher that Hezbollah has at its disposal. And so again, if they have 100,000 munitions, they don't have 100,000 launchers. They might have 10,000 launchers. And they have so far in the last couple of weeks, for sure, they have been able to confirm that the IAF has taken out thousands, something like probably approaching 8,000 to 10,000 launchers that they've been able to take off the playing field by their strikes inside Lebanon. And so they are dramatically reducing Hezbollah's capability to threaten Israel right now. And this is a smart thing to do before they move into the phase. I'm going to turn a light on here. Before they move into the phase of actually going in on the ground. They're going to want to do this because as the IDF tanks and troops go in on the ground, what they don't want to have to be doing is also worrying about hundreds or even thousands of these munitions flying over their heads into Israel proper. So they want to try to get Hezbollah to sort of, clean out its inventory, is the best way I can put that, so to speak. And they want them to once they've sort of depleted their inventory of missiles, then the IDF can go in on the ground and their troops will be safer and the people will be safer and they'll be able to really focus on going and holding territory. That's what they're going to have to do to win this thing. They're going to have to. Okay, another question from Hannah Cook says, Iran is clearly not going to stop. My question is, why is it getting support from countries who have no clear problems with Israel? I'm not sure what countries you're talking about. Maybe Russia. Russia certainly does have problems with Israel in that Israel is a friend of the United States. Again, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and that works for Russia as well. Here's another question that, gosh, this chat thing drives me crazy. Is everything quiet in Gaza right now? Do they still have troops there? Yes, they still have troops there. They still believe that there are about 5,000 Hamas extremists, militants in northern Gaza. 5,000 that are still there. And so they've been floating these ideas, like one of the ideas that they're talking about is making northern Gaza, everything north of the Netzarim corridor, into a demilitarized zone, or a militarized zone, and forcibly relocating about 300,000 people from that area and making them all move south. And as they do that, clearing out the north and starving out the remaining 5,000 Hamas militants. They believe, they put out today that of the 100 and a couple remaining hostages, the Israelis believe that only about 50 of them are still alive, 50. And that those 50 are surrounding Yahya Sinwar. Now, there were some rumors flying around that Yahya Sinwar might have taken a dirt nap after an IDF airstrike in northern Gaza the other day. But then the IDF came out just earlier this afternoon here in local time and said, no, they believe he is still alive and is still surrounded by the remaining hostages. So their idea, or one of the ideas that they're floating, is to starve him out. Excuse me, I had to sneeze there. One of their ideas is to starve them out by just laying siege to northern Gaza and, get the civilians out of there. And then basically, if you're I don't know how they would decide who's a civilian, because everybody's going to wear civilian clothes. And if it's a military age male in there, there's a good chance that he's in some way affiliated with Hamas. So I don't know how they plan on separating the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. But their idea, one of them they're floating, is to starve out the remaining extremists. They say that inside of a week they would be begging, for food. But that would also obviously put the remaining hostages in very great peril, probably worse than they are already. So they have not decided to do that. That's just one of the options that has been floated in the last couple of days by the leadership of the Israeli government. Okay. Now, I want to point out a couple of articles from it's called IsraelHayom.com. Israel Hayom is a conservative Israeli local media, okay? And they're live blogging what's happening right now. The IDF is telling Lebanese to leave amid airstrikes. Hezbollah are shooting massive volleys on Galilee, Haifa area, and Samaria. There is no, of course, they're not going to put this up there. They're not going to say that, oh, we've run out of Iron Dome rockets or anything like that. They wouldn't say that. You would not expect them to. And again, I'm just leaving the map up here because this map is getting updated in real time as more volleys are coming from Lebanon. So when you start to see red splotches show up on this map, you will know that there are more air raid sirens sounding across Israel. Okay. Have you heard of any possibility to get AA from anyone? Richard, I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Warn UN troops? Yeah, I don't know what they do as far as warning the UNIFIL troops that are in that region. But I had heard that the UNIFIL troops were packing up. I have not seen that they left, but I heard that they were preparing to leave if they had to in the case of a ground incursion, okay? So, folks, if you have not subscribed over at chuckholton.com, I recommend you do so. All you have to do is just sign up. It's free. And you can get, I'm posting a lot of videos of what's happening inside Lebanon right now. And so I can't show it to you on YouTube, because they'll kick me off. But if I can put them over there, I can talk about them here. You can go to chuckholton.com and you can see what I'm talking about. They are making massive airstrikes on Lebanon right now, greater than they have so far in this conflict. Question by Stephen Waldner. How long does it take to manufacture one launcher? It depends on what kind of munition you're talking about. Some of these homemade rockets that we've seen in Gaza, they just need a tube that's relatively slightly larger than the munition, and they can sort of point it and fire it just like you would a firework. And so they're not very precise or anything like that. They're just lighting a fuse, basically. And so those are simple. And obviously Hezbollah has got a whole bunch like that. But the more precise ones, the larger, more powerful ones, those things need a very well-manufactured launcher. And those things are not going to be manufactured easily in a short amount of time. That's just not going to happen. So if they're taking out launchers for, they have a whole bunch of these World War II Katyusha rockets, for example. If they take out the launchers for those things, they're not going to make more in short order. I mean, it would take months, most likely, to manufacture any significant number of new launchers. And so taking out the launchers should be the overall objective, or at least tactically, so that they can negate the value of the remaining munitions. Because without launchers, those munitions really don't, they're not any good. Question, how long does it take to manufacture an Iron Dome interceptor? Those things, it depends on which ones you're talking about, again, because you have Iron Dome, then you have David's Sling, and then you have the Arrow system, and you have the Patriot missile batteries that the United States has sent over there, et cetera, et cetera. They have, let's just say that they have an ongoing conveyor line making these things and supplying them. Many of them come from the United States. Last I heard, there were about 2 to 4 flights a day coming in from the United States, bringing munitions of one kind or another. Now, the other thing that I haven't even mentioned yet is that we're getting to the point now where the Israelis are firing artillery across the border into Lebanon. This is why I'm saying these are the opening salvos of the Third Lebanon War, because it's not just airstrikes at this point. Now we are seeing artillery firing munitions across the border into Lebanon and taking out positions that are, that artillery has a range of, let's say, up to 10 miles. It depends on the munitions. Some of the munitions can go even 30 miles or greater. And so that all-important space south of the Litani River in southern Lebanon, which is about 10 miles on average, that's the part that they have to clear out. And Israeli artillery can hit virtually anything in that region, that 10-mile zone south of the Litani River. So now that we're seeing artillery firing across there, that is what I would call the last step before you see boots on the ground inside Lebanon. And so I'm saying that we could see that. We could see boots on the ground in Lebanon tonight or tomorrow or the next day, but it's coming. Mark my words. What happened to the USA and others who said they will help Israel defend the airstrikes like the last time they were getting fired upon? Yeah, I haven't seen any information about the United States helping to shoot down any of these munitions. What that would tell me, if I had to read between the lines, knowing that, is that the United States doesn't feel like it's necessary at this point. That means the Iron Dome is still doing its job. If they started to see widespread damage happening in built-up areas, large numbers of casualties, some kind of mass casualty event taking place in Israel, if that was the case, then it's likely that the United States might get involved and start shooting down some of those munitions. But so far, we don't have any information about large numbers of casualties inside Israel. And thank God for that, okay? Okay, now, one of the things that I'm seeing right now, just the most up-to-date information that I have, is that a Hezbollah long-range rocket has fallen in the town of Salfit, which is in Judea and Samaria, what they call the West Bank, and it fell on an Arab house. This is something that we've seen. Yesterday, there was a rocket that landed in Nazareth, like Bethlehem area. This is... yeah, I think so anyway. And so what we're seeing is damage being caused inside Arab-Palestinian areas inside Israel, which is kind of ironic because here you have Hezbollah ostensibly supporting the Palestinians, but they're in the process of bombing the Palestinians as we speak. And that's not funny, but it's kind of sad and ironic at the same time. So the videos that I'm seeing coming out in real time right here on Telegram are showing that are showing detonations inside Israel, are showing them in areas that are not built up. I can't show them to you because in doing so, I would get myself demonetized. So you can go to chuckholton.com and you can see those. We will be putting those up throughout the evening here. Just recently, Amir Tsarfati is posting more videos of detonations inside Lebanon. They are showing interceptions over his house in the Galilee. And so interceptions is good. That means that things are going well so far. They still have the capability to intercept these things over northern Israel, and they've not run out of those munitions. So that's good. That's good. All right. So we're coming up on an hour. I would say we should pray for Israel right now, and we should pray for God's hand of protection over them as we get ready to sign off here. So let's do that. Lord God, come to you right now, and we just ask that you would send your angels to camp around those who fear you, like you promised to do in Psalm 34:7. Lord, we pray that you would put your hand on Israel. You would bring peace to Jerusalem. You would bring peace to the people in the north, that you would, God, cause the enemies of Israel to have to defend themselves from themselves, cause them to be in disarray, to continue to be confused, for their rockets to come back on their own heads, and for there to be peace. Because we know, Father, that for this to be over, all Hezbollah has to do is stop, and Israel can stop. But if Hezbollah doesn't stop, then Israel must continue. And so we pray for wisdom and discernment on the part of the Israeli government and the IDF. We pray for safety for their soldiers, and we pray for the safety of the civilians who are caught in the crossfire on both sides, because I know without a shadow of a doubt that there are many of our brothers and sisters in Christ who are Maronite Christians who are in southern Lebanon right now, who are completely against what Hezbollah is doing and want very badly to be freed from the iron grip of these extremists and militants in their midst. So I pray that they would be free, Father, in Jesus' name, amen. Okay, folks, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to go inside now and get some dinner, but I appreciate all of you being online. Please like and share the podcast. It does make a difference. We are seeing a lot of growth in our YouTube channel because you guys are doing that. You're sharing the podcast, you're liking the podcast, and you are going to chuckholton.com and signing up. We just hit a real milestone over at chuckholton.com with over, I think, 15,000 people subscribed over there to get real-time updates, things that I cannot give you on YouTube. So go over there and sign up, and you can be part of that as well. One more question. Is Mossad in contact with the Christian community in Lebanon? I wouldn't say they are, although they do have very good human intelligence sources inside Lebanon, and without a doubt, some of those are likely Christians in Lebanon, but they don't talk about that. So I can't say for sure. Okay, it does help a lot though if you like and share the podcast and engage in the chat. So thank you very much. Somebody says, I have a friend that I constantly have disagreements with about what happened on October 7th. Is there any way you can see the unedited video of that tragic day? Yes, go to Amir Tsarfati's Telegram channel, and he has posted unedited videos. They're very hard to watch. I would not recommend watching it. If you are squeamish, or even if you are not squeamish, if you believe that it happened and you don't need to see that video, it's really hard to delete once you've seen it. You can't unsee it, and it's horrific. It is horrific. And so if somebody is saying it didn't happen, look, Hamas filmed it with their own cameras. They filmed themselves committing atrocities inside Israel. And that video is available on Amir Tsarfati's Telegram channel. So I would suggest you go send people over there if they're telling you it didn't happen, because it did happen. And I was there 2 days after it happened, and there were still bodies and parts of bodies laying all over in the Kibbutz Be'eri, near Oz, in places all around in the south there. Okay, so what is not true? Can you say, yeah, I can say nuclear bomb, but it wasn't a nuclear bomb. There's no nuclear bombs happening. Okay, so that's all I've got, folks. God bless you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time. If anything else happens, I will go back live, even if it's middle of the night. If there's something that's breaking, watch this channel, and I will go back live. So stay tuned.